The Israeli military deploys Iron Dome missile defense batteries throughout the country amid fears of rising tensions with Gaza. That after the Islamic Jihad militant group vowed revenge following a senior commander's arrest.
The death toll from yesterday's massive earthquake along the Iran-Iraq border climbs to over 400, with nearly 7,000 injured as rescue efforts search for survivors.
An Amnesty International report documents how Syrian civilians are the ones suffering from forced displacement and unlawful killings as a result of those so-called de-escalation deals.
And France commemorates the second anniversary of the Islamic State attacks at the Bataclan Theater and other sites in Paris as the country's state of emergency continues. Welcome back to the Rundown. Let's take a quick look now at the financial markets. We see in stocks the Dow is climbing back up. That's fueled by stocks like Boeing, which got that huge $15 billion plane order from Emirates Airlines. You know, that's going to make President Trump happy. Here's just a quick look at bond prices, but let's move on to commodities. And we see oil slightly down, but still in at over $63. A new poll of professionals say it's going to stay in that $60 range through next year. And now a quick look at currencies. Dollar a little up. Maybe some of that news coming out of Asia affecting that.
And from world markets, let's move on to one of the biggest economic stories in the U.S., if not the biggest, taxes. The Republican tax reform bill making its way through Congress, the Senate and the House still working at reaching a bill they can actually both agree on. But however they get it to work, the end result will likely include a tax cut for the richest Americans.
And you think lower taxes is something everyone would welcome? But 400 of the wealthiest people in the U.S., including billionaire George Soros and the founders of the Ben & Jerry ice cream empire, have signed a letter asking Congress not to reduce their taxes or any cuts that either add to the national debt or, quote, further exacerbates inequality. Well, for more on the tax plan, let's go to New York and to Max Wolf, chief economist at the Phoenix Group. Max, some of those millionaires, billionaires saying, don't cut taxes. President Trump today tweeting he wants that top rate cut down to 35%. Do you think it's going to be cut? And what actual impact would that have?
Yeah, so look, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Always a little bit hard to tell. I mean, President Trump threw a Twitter wrench into the works today by tweeting from Asia, trying to bring up this sort of obsession he seems to have with the individual health care mandate, which has bogged down and delayed these tax negotiations in the past. What it looks like to us is there is a House version, there is a Senate version. Both of them will be pretty significantly cutting taxes, particularly for larger corporations and high-income individuals. And in both cases, there's a possibility that there'll be significantly heavier tax burdens on at least some low and moderate income families. And I think part of the reason there's some upset about that, both from the billionaires as well as from some Republicans as well as Democrats in the House and Senate, is we're at the end of a 30-year cycle, particularly the end of a 10-year cycle, in which large corporations and wealthy individuals have done very well, and everyone else has done pretty badly. And in fact, they were so angry that's part of the reason we ended up with President Trump. So in a sort of odd twist of fate here, the president is no longer doing as good a job maybe in the tax discussion as he did all through last campaign and reaching out and talking to what distressed middle-class Americans really care about and really want to hear.
Max, looking at the stock market, the last week it's kind of gone a little bit flat, a little bit up today. Apparently some uncertainty about how that tax reform is actually going to end up with corporate taxes. What do you expect to happen with the markets once that tax plan comes out?
So great point. Look, the markets were kind of losing steam when we went into earnings season. We now got through a really good earnings season, which powered markets higher. So the truth is this is a very long in the tooth rally. So we're really about 8 years into a pretty explosive period of stock market performance. It's been global. And so people are excited about that. That being said, it was already kind of late innings, and now we've got some worries. And I think there's three things Americans are worried about that are being reflected in these equity markets here. To your point, obviously, anything about that makes it look less likely or smaller for tax relief is bad for the markets. But equally bad for the markets, there's a lot of fear about growing tension in the Middle East, particularly about maybe an Iran-Saudi axis of trouble that's developing, which makes American investors nervous. I think there's also a fair amount of nerves about the American standing in the world. If you look at the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Pact, and the recent Asia trip by President Trump, the sort of days of America being in charge and others falling in line, and the notion of America astride the global order looks to be slipping somewhat significantly. And I think in the age of globalization, when we talk about indexes, we're talking about 500 to 2,000 of the largest companies in the world doing business everywhere. And because many of them are American companies, we're pretty heavily leveraged to the prestige and power of the United States, and that's creating some concern as well.
Okay, Max Wolf from New York, thanks for joining us today.
Let's shift to from those taxes causing debate in the U.S. to salaries sparking a whole lot of controversy right here in Israel. The local tech industry has attracted some of the world's biggest companies to open up their own R&D centers in Israel. Among them, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Intel. That competition has already made salaries in the tech sector extremely competitive, especially compared to the rest of the Israeli economy. But now, according to a report in the Marker Business Daily, Amazon is on the hunt for Israeli talent and dramatically raising the stakes. We're talking about salary offers around 20 to 40% higher than the industry average. Oren Elimelech is a cybersecurity researcher and chief information security officer at Israel's Ministry of Transport and Road Safety, and certainly very plugged into this sector. Oren, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So this seems to sort of give new definition to the notion of tech bubble.
Yes, indeed.
What is this doing? What is Amazon entrance, or all those companies for that matter, to Israel's economy, and for that massive, massive discrepancy between the salary of those guys and everybody else?
They're targeting specific, very talented individuals, and they're headhunting specific high expertise specialists so they can recruit them. And they're offering, as you mentioned, 20, 30, 40% higher income, and even 13 and 14 salaries as a bonus to recruitment, and that creates that varies the level, and other companies cannot compete, not by options, stocks, etc. It's an uneven game.
So in the bottom line, when you think about companies like Intel and Google and Amazon being here, you'd think it's good for the economy. But if all of those companies that can't pay 16 grand a month can't compete, doesn't that force them to outsource all their services out of Israel?
Indeed, that forces them to outsource. But I think that in looking in the long run, it will balance. If I recall, a year ago, we had a similar incident with another company, and it's peaking. It's nice headlines, I believe, and it creates an uneven game. But in the end, there's a limited number of people. So they will recruit that, and again, it will not be thousands of people. There will be a few dozen, maybe 100, and that's it. But yeah.
So at some point, Amazon has to, it has to kind of level out for Amazon.
Yes. But again, they pay salaries that are good, and they are common, as in U.S. and other areas, but are uncommon here, and those specific talented individuals get better salaries.
So in the bigger picture, when you're looking at the ability of small businesses and of really innovation to flourish in that environment, is the presence of giants like that helping or hurting?
No, indeed, that's obvious. They cannot compete. They have nothing to offer. What are you going to give them? A nice go to the gym, a vacation in Eilat? What? It's an uneven game.
Is there something that could be done, either government or any kind of agency, or is this is just what it is in the free market?
It's a free market. It's a free market. I think this is the way it is, and people should get better paid. But again, if other companies coming from abroad are able to offer that, hey, I would have done the same as you.
What's your take briefly on why all these companies always end up in Israel?
Israel is a nice, it's not even nice, it's a very talented individuals focused in a very condensed area. Always say the Israeli brain, we think out of the box. We offer quick response to things, and there's a lot of tech industries where you can incubate ideas, start up here, and make them try out like a POC run, and then try it out around the world. So you've got like an incubators, good brains, and talented people all mixed up together.
All right, Oren Elimelech, thanks very much for that.
Maybe you'll be working for Amazon the next time you come.
Maybe.
Talented.
Maybe we'll be working for Amazon.
I was just going to say, I think maybe the bottom line from all of this is that maybe we went into the wrong line of work.
Yeah, maybe.
Potentially.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to go out for a quick break. Still to come on The Rundown. A new Israeli law would cut funding to the Palestinian Authority over the welfare payments it makes to families of terrorists. It sparked a fierce debate in Israeli parliament. We'll bring you the debate right here in the studio after the break. Don't go anywhere.